Well, hello and welcome to this video. This video is on images in your HTML page. Okay, so let's have a look at what we do with images and how we do them. So first of all, we need a new folder. So we will create the new folder, which is of course HTML7. Okay, and inside here we need somewhere to store the images. Now you can actually store the images in with your HTML, but that's not really considered very good practice. So we're going to create a new folder, and people call them lots of things. Now they could be called assets, and then inside there you could have an images folder, that type of thing. Or you can just have a folder called image, like that, or one called images, like that. It's very much your choice. Now, if you go down the route of actually having assets, and then, for example, images, you need to bear in mind that certain frameworks actually also use an assets folder and will sometimes clean it up when you're not expecting it. So just bear that in mind, that that could happen. So what I prefer to do is I prefer to have it just in a folder called images. Okay, so that's what I'm going to create. Now, as you can see, we've got no HTML file and we've got nothing in the images file. So what I've done is I've got some images already. Copy, we're in Dropbox, www, tutorial, get tutorial, HTML, HTML7, and paste into folder. Okay, so that has worked. Now there are one or two things that you have to remember on this, and that is that you might not have permissions to actually alter your images. Oops. Thank you. Okay, so always check that you actually do have the permissions to alter the images here. Okay, so here are our images. They've got very strange names, so it's a good idea to actually give them much better names. So you can actually look on the image, and as you can see, they're all quite large images, these ones, and these are probably too large for using on the web, but we can actually give it a much better name. So while it's highlighted, I'll call it St. Marlow. Okay, and this one is St. Marlow again, but we'll give it the name. So F2, sailing ship, and this one is F2, snow 1, and I can tell you that this is going to be snow 2 probably. Oh no, that one's a very good one. Banana split. Oops, with an A in banana. Okay, so now we've got sensible names for the images. Now, giving them sensible names is quite important, because when Google actually checks your page and things like this, it will actually look at pictures, so you can have them easily searchable, and it also helps you because having them as they were before with just sort of manufactured names with the date and the time and that type of thing, doesn't mean anything. You don't know what you're looking at. Okay, so we now have the images. As you can see, they are quite large. I'm going to leave them like this just for this tutorial, and in a later tutorial I'm going to show you how to change the size of the images and make them much more web friendly, especially on slower computer systems and internet. And you have to remember that quite a lot of the internet actually pays for their download, so the smaller and faster you make the image, the less it costs them. Okay, so I don't actually need that anymore, because if you so now we have the images. We now of course need a new file in here, so we can put in, of course, our usual index.html and save it. Okay, I'm just going to very quickly copy and paste the contents of this, because it does mean it's shorter. And in here we'll change that to images, and then we can remove those two lines there. Okay, so, and Control and S to save. Right, so there we are. We now have our blank HTML file. Right, now an image is actually very easy to display in HTML. It has its own element, which is image. You then have to give it, let me just close that off first. Okay, now notice there's no closing tag. Image doesn't take a closing tag. Okay, so we now need to give it where the image is. Okay, now if the image is in the same folder as your HTML file, then you don't need to give it a path. But here it's not in the same folder, so we actually do have to give it the path to the image. Otherwise, we can't find it. So this is quite important. So if it's in another, folder, you put in the / followed by the folder name, and then the name of the image, and I believe that one's a JPEG. Okay, now if we save that, if we start Atom Live Server, and now this is pretty useless for most things, because basically all it's going to do is it's going to show the image, but it's not going to tell anybody about that image. It's not going to give any information whatsoever about the image to anybody. So it's always a good idea to actually give more information. Let me just see if I can move this new system of Opera, where they've got this very, very small border. Trying to catch the border is nearly impossible. I might have to go back to Firefox, because even though okay, so if we come down to HTML7, okay, and we have a problem. Is it a JPEG? Banana split? It's banana split.jpg, so why isn't that showing? There we go. Right, now as you can see, the image is much too big for the web page. Okay, it's enormous, and this is because we haven't given it any attributes as to the height, and we're using the full size image. And of course, this is one of the problems if you're on a paid for internet. You don't want to download 2 or 3 meg for an image that might only be shown in a very small size. Okay, so we can actually use some attributes. Now normally you would use a style sheet, but here I'm just going to use some normal attributes. Now where are we? Width, let's say this is 640, and we'll make the height equal to 480. Now if I save that now, it should bring the size of the image down quite considerably. So now you can see, although the image itself has not changed in the images folder, what we're actually displaying has. Okay, you might have guessed I rather like banana splits. Okay, so it's always a good idea to have a number of images, and later on we'll show you how to do that. Okay, now again, if you've got a screen reader or you've got something like this, this information that we've got here isn't actually very useful, because the screen reader won't really tell them anything about the image. So one of the things that you should always do is you should always give a description, a short description of what it is that the image is of. So a nice banana, whoops, I'm having problems spelling today, split. Okay, Control S. Now there's a number of reasons why you do this alt. The first one is, of course, with screen readers, but if there's a problem with the image, okay, and if I do that and then save it so it can't find it, you'll see that it actually puts this a nice banana split as part of the title. So this helps again with text only browsers, and there are a few text only browsers. They don't show images at all. Okay, so here we go. So images, banana split. Okay, and that's basically how you create an image on the system. Now if we just make this a bit smaller, save it, okay, you can now see the whole picture. It's still the full size, there's no change in size, it's just the browser is showing it in a much smaller area. Okay, now one of the other things that you can do is you can actually have the image become part of the background of the page, so you can have that as a page. Now one of the ways of doing this is by adding style, and then we want background image, and then you have to actually do that. Okay, now notice the double quotes and then the single quotes. Okay, this is one of the reasons why we use double quotes in HTML as the standard one. Now let's have a look. We want images to take us to the right file, and we'll have snow1.jpg. Now be careful, you'll notice I've put the capital S in, okay, because some browsers, in fact most browsers, are case sensitive. Now if I save that, okay, we're going to get the snow image on the back. Okay, and we're only get a small amount of it because it's actually a very large image. So you need to make sure that your images are the right size. Now, yes, we can make the image auto size as well to the system, and that's something we'll do when we work on CSS and we start on the CSS. But as you can see, we now have that as an image. Let's beautify so it's all in the right way. There we go. Thank you very much. And Control S again to save it. Okay, so that's saved. I'll just put this onto GitHub, so I shall stage the changes. So it's the images. Notice the images are being staged, and also the index. So we're going to call this HTML7 images, displaying images, and I shall commit that to master, and once that's done I shall push this up to GitHub. So that's going to take a few minutes to push up to GitHub because of the size of the images. If you are downloading this, I do apologize. I will create some smaller images, but at the present time they are pretty large, so you'll find that I will put I will edit the images and make them smaller. Okay, I hope you found that useful. My name's John. Thank you for watching.